Good evening, race fans, and welcome to round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Today, folks, we are going to see some very, very intense racing from drivers today. This track being probably one of the most trickiest of the schedule here on the series. Now, as we get into qualifying, but before we get into that, my name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action today, and I hope you all are ready for it, as, again, we are going to start our qualifying here for today's race, and right now, we have a couple drivers making their way around the track, getting themselves started for their first official timed lap of the race, and the first of which we are seeing here currently. Finley Fitzsimmons in the 6th machine as he rips his way around track currently. And again, this track, I have a feeling, is going to be one of the more trickier circuits, as this has a lot of tight chicanes, a lot of tight turns right here. This is one of them that Finley Fitzsimmons currently working his way through. As we look at Corey Sabo now in the 4 machine, working his way through the same section of track that we just saw. The 6 of Finley Fitzsimmons working his way through as well. So, a few drivers here making their way out onto track and getting themselves started for their first official time lap. Finley Fitzsimmons completing that first lap of the session here, with Troy Banks coming in that 2nd place spot there for the time being in that 8 machine. He's going to park it there for just a moment. Probably reset himself and get another shot at that attempt. As Corey Sabo works his way now across the line as well. Going to place himself into 5th. And look at that. Turn 1. Nasty, mean chicane there. The drivers are going to have to work their way through right off the start. And this race, folks, is definitely has a lot of opportunities for drivers to ultimately be driven into some blind spots where if someone wrecks in front of them, they're not going to be able to really spot it until they're right up on it. And there's only a few sections of a track where I think that's a real possibility here. But definitely something to look out for, something to pay attention to as we get into the action today. Finley Fitzsimmons, though, still holding on to provisional pole onto that 1st place spot as he works his way down into pit road now with a 1 minute 9.947 seconds as his official qualifying time as it stands currently. Alex Roggenbuck in the 70. Going to be looking to place himself into the top 3 on the starting grid as he spins coming down the final stretch. Oh man, that's got to hurt for the 70 of Alex Roggenbuck. But again, this is one of those tracks where I think this is definitely where it has the opportunity to pose those kind of dangers to drivers. So with that in mind, and as drivers slowly wrap up their qualifying here, there's going to be about 5 minutes left here in the qualifying. We will take a quick break, and we will be right back for the action here for round 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge, as all of our drivers have completed their qualifying for today. We will be right back for our starting grid. Stay tuned, folks. Don't go anywhere, and we will be right back for more iRacing here on Team Goon Squad.
Driver Carrington gets dumped by Benami. The leaders are winding up here. Daytona, the Kingwood is out.
And welcome back, folks, to round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. We have our starting grid for today's race with Finley Fitzsimmons in the one machine, starting out in the front with Daniel Beauchamp in the 4-5-1 machine. Going to be on the outside in the front row. Corey Sabo in the 4, going to be starting out in third with Alex Roggenbuck in the 70 machine, going to be in 4th place. In your second row, Gareth McAllister in the 25, going to be in 5th place with Jack Mundy in the 3-2-0. In 6th place, rounding out your third row, and last, but certainly not least, Troy Banks in the 8, going to be starting in 7th place. As drivers prepare to get ready for their first green flag run of the day. And we already have a driver up in the wall. That's Gareth McAllister of the 25 off of this standing start. Daniel Beauchamp able to take the lead from Finley Fitzsimmons here as they work their way out of those beautiful chicanes out of turn 1 and 2. But coming here, look at how close they're getting to the wall on the exit there. Great driving that we're seeing from a lot of these guys, but a lot of pressure being put down from Finley Fitzsimmons in that 6 machine on Daniel Beauchamp as he tries to close this gap between the two of them. And right now, no one has the advantage of DRS. This is something that you have to take into consideration. So Finley Fitzsimmons is forced to work through all of that dirty air. He's going to have to find any spot on the track that he's able to get to maintain that speed, maintain that pace, and try and stick to the 4-5-1 of Daniel Beauchamp. But looking in third right now, Corey Sabo in that 4 machine right now. Oh, look at this beautiful view as they work their way through the final chicane, down the final stretch, across the checkered line. Or rather, a white line here. I'm so used to oval commentating. It's a checkered line, a white line. What's the difference these days? All right, Corey Sabo, though. Look at that. Great control. It looks like he almost got a little wide there on exit, but kept it together. Things are still looking pretty solid for the 4 of Corey Sabo. Now, Alex Roggenbuck here in the 70. He was looking pretty confident in qualifying. Not sure exactly if he was knocked down right at the last moment into 4th place, which is currently where he started at this during this feature here. So with Alex Roggenbuck in 4th place right now, he's got nearly 7 seconds to close before he is anywhere near the drivers in the top 3. So he's got a little bit of work ahead of him, but given the difficulty of this track and just how many, I guess you could say, just uncertainties there are going into this race, there's a lot of things that could happen that could close that gap between these drivers here. So we're going to keep an eye on that, but looking right now with Daniel Beauchamp in the 4-5-1 in 1st place still. Looking quite impressive here as well, doing extremely well. His line work, very impressive to watch here. Let's actually take a moment here to ride on board with the 4-5-1. Kind of get a different perspective of what it's like to be on the inside of that 4-5-1 machine as we ride on board with the helmet camera of Daniel Beauchamp. Look at that. Oh man, absolutely sending it into that turn. Gets it around very, very smooth, very quickly. That's exactly what you want to do here. And if we're looking at current pace right now between our drivers, Finley Fitzsimmons is slowly falling off the pace of that 4-5-1. Now, once he gets back into the door or the opportunity window of DRS, that might change things here a little bit. But right now, Daniel Beauchamp is actually nearly a second, actually over a second and a half away from the 6 of Finley Fitzsimmons right now. So Finley's got some work ahead of him. he's got to figure out something. He's got to make these lines work for him a little bit more, be a little bit more consistent possibly, and find any spot on the track where he can cut away that time. That's easier said than done, of course. So we'll see how Finley tackles this problem going forward into the race. Now we are on lap 4 of 35 for the feature today. Now, I would just like to mention we will not be covering the sprint for this race here today, as I've been informed by Race Control that it was a absolute carnage fest right off the gate. So there is not much to be said or told about the sprint race for today's race here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. But as we continue on here, lap 5 of 35 that we are on right now, starting to look like drivers are separating rather extensively. If we're looking at our track map here, you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, as we look with Finley Fitzsimmons in the 6th machine in second place still currently. Yeah, you can definitely see a lot of drivers have gotten quite spread out here. You can even see Troy Banks all the way on the other end of the track here in 5th place right now. So if anything, if any drivers are going to be hoping to have something happen to give them an opportunity to get back out in front, I mean, Troy Banks is probably one of them. But when you are kind of in this position where you just have clean air in front of you, well, can't really complain too much, but then again, things could always be better, right? But again, this series has not seen a whole lot of entries, so you kind of have to just take it as you get it. But that's just another kind of perspective of this race that makes it a little bit interesting. You know, once you get put into this position, it's almost impossible to work your way out of it. And I feel as a driver, for certain drivers at least, maybe, it kind of gives you a chance to understand what it's like to be in that position and maybe figure out different ways to tackle that problem. Now, it might sound easier said than done, but you know, hey, there's always something to learn and take away from everything that you do, every race that you perform in or drive in, rather. So, you know, it's not exactly the end of the world, and given that the things have kind of been this way for this series, it's almost, I would say, to be expected. But everyone's making the best of it. Every single driver here has done something to try and improve themselves, try and make their racecraft just a little bit better and perform just a little bit better. Now, these cars are not, by any stretch of the imagination, easy to handle or easy to race. They are extremely, extremely touchy, extremely difficult, and can often find yourself in the wall or in another car. So a lot of things kind of have to be looked at here in races like this, but look at this great view here from the blimp camera above Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as we watch Corey Sabo in the 4 machine working his way through this beautiful chicane here. Nice little bit of track. Corey Sabo working his way through now. But a lot of interesting sections of this track, and that part being one of them that Corey Sabo just worked his way through, and now approaching this nice right-hander as well. So a lot of tricky sections in this track that I think maybe some drivers are struggling with here a little bit. Daniel Beauchamp definitely not one of them, as he is still continuing to improve that gap between himself and Finley Fitzsimmons, who is actually down to about 2.5 seconds now between himself and the 4.51 of Daniel Beauchamp. So not really seeing a whole lot of attacking happening, I guess you could say, from Finley Fitzsimmons back there in that 6 machine, but doing everything he possibly can to make the best of it and possibly at least stay within range to take advantage of the pit stops once they come around. Given that we're on lap 8 of 35, we're still about 5 to 6 laps or so more before we even see drivers come down pit road for the first time. And Daniel is going to be on those soft reds this time around. So I would have to imagine that Daniel is going to be one of the first drivers to come in. Now, looking at Finley Fitzsimmons, he's also on those soft reds here as well. We do normally have a compound available to show everyone, but if you're looking at the timing tower right now and wondering why there's a blank space, well, that's where the tire compound is supposed to be. So some things not quite working the way that they should be up here in the booth, but nah, that's to be expected. Some things like to break themselves every now and then. That's just how the way it is. But again, with Finley Fitzsimmons and Daniel Beauchamp both going to be on those soft reds, I would have to, if I'm guessing, man, I would have to assume it's probably going to be about lap 14, lap 15 that these guys are going to come down pit road. Maybe a little bit earlier, depending on how hard they're pushing these tires. Really pushing these tires. They might come down a lap or two earlier. But it's unlikely. These two drivers have been extremely consistent throughout this whole season and have shown that they're very capable of prolonging the life of their tires. They're very capable of staying out as long as possible if needed. Now, if Daniel Beauchamp right now looking at timing, he's starting to slow down. No, never mind. No, he's not. He is still increasing his gap from the 6 of Finley Fitzsimmons. But right as I say that, he's actually starting to close in just barely in time. Just barely. Just chipping away. Chisel and hammer on a rock like a sculptist. That's essentially what Finley Fitzsimmons is doing here right now to that gap of Daniel Beauchamp. Excuse me. Yeah, this is definitely a competition of who has the better consistency here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Daniel definitely seems like he's taking it away right now. He's looking extremely comfortable up there in front, and he's still taking away the lead. He's still inching away from that 6 machine ever so slightly, just barely, just enough that eventually, well, I don't want to say eventually, because eventually we're going to come down pit road, and that's going to change things here very, very quickly. As we're on lap 11 of 35, so only a few more laps. And right now, Daniel has shown some extreme consistency here. And I also have to mention as well that we have not had any other drivers involved in a wreck or in an incident since we started this race. Now, we had Gareth McAllister and it looks like Jack Mundy both get involved in a wreck at the start. I for sure know that Gareth McAllister was involved, but I didn't see Jack Mundy get involved in that wreck. But he might have very well been collected in that. Those two might have also just collided into one another. Who knows? But, well, I'm sure they know. But either way, we have two drivers that have been put out right at the very start of the race, right off the grid, or starting grid. But everyone else here has stayed extremely consistent, and I mean extremely consistent. This has been impressive racing from all of these drivers. Now, there's a couple drivers here that might not have the best line work. They might be a little bit wide, a little bit too shallow in some entries or some exits, but that's okay. That's part of learning, and that's again part of the whole point I was making earlier, that drivers here are learning. They're improving every single race and giving themselves an opportunity to truly understand this car. And with all the tracks that we've seen ooh, wow, look at that. The 70 Alex Roggenbuck going right over the curbs, getting that getting those two wheels off the ground. But Alex keeping it together, though, as he's still holding on to that 4th place position, and he's still pretty comfortable in that spot here as well. But actually looking at timing here, Troy Banks seems to be slowly chipping away at that gap here between Alex Roggenbuck. So I don't know, maybe Alex here looks like he's on the intermediate tires right now, so he's going to be able to stay out a little bit longer than everyone else. Probably lap 16 or 17, we'll see that. Ooh, wow, look at that. Maybe not, given how hard he's driving this car right now. He might be coming in around the same time as everyone else. But, yeah, so a lot of different strategies that we're seeing here out on track right now. Look at Daniel, though, just absolutely ripping it. You could almost see the two wheels getting contact with the wall there. Look at that, almost again. Very impressive driving from the 451, as per usual, that we've seen. Excuse me as we are playing with cameras. Trying to find the good view for everyone here at home. But anyhow, Corey Sabo in the 4 machine, still in 3rd place right now, and it looks like he's increasing that gap. Or not increasing, but closing that gap between himself and Finley Fitzsimmons now who's in 2nd place still, and it looks like Finley actually fell off quite significantly from Daniel Beauchamp, as he has now gone from, it was a moment ago, it seemed like 2.5 seconds or so, and now it's all the way up to 5. So I gotta be wondering what's going on in that 6 machine that's possibly setting him back and causing him to fall back this much. As we are lap 14 of 35, just about halfway through the race. As still making our way around the track, and Corey slowly seems to be catching back up here to the 451, at least for a moment it seemed like. But here we go. Here's our pit cycles. This is starting now. Daniel Beauchamp going to be coming down first, and he came down like a bullet. That was absolutely wicked to see that 451 just send it down into pit road. And hopefully he didn't catch a speeding penalty for that, but that was absolutely quick coming down here into pit road. So that's going to grant the opportunity for Finley Fitzsimmons to come down here into pit road, or, well, excuse me, to take the lead and stay out in front. Now, right now, Finley has worked his way about 16 seconds from the 451 of Daniel Beauchamp. Now, Daniel was in pit road for about 32 seconds. Now, Finley has about half that to work with as far as gap between himself and Daniel Beauchamp. Now, whether or not he's going to be able to stay out here, well, let's find out, because he's about to come down pit road. Oh, no, he's not. No, he's not. It looked like he was going to come down pit road, but he's going to stay out. We are going to see the 6 machine stay out just a little bit longer on those soft reds. Not sure if that's going to be the strategy, the move to make here. Looking at Daniel, I got to be wondering, because now it looks like Daniel's going to be on those intermediate tires. He is. So Daniel's going to be good for the rest of the race. He's not going to have to come back down into pit road here before the end of the race. And that just really bodes the question here. Oh, man. How is this going to work for Finley Fitzsimmons? Because the gap isn't exactly getting any bigger between Finley and Daniel right now. It's actually closing, kind of. Not really. It's very, very subtle. But Finley Fitzsimmons is only just barely holding on to that 16 seconds between himself and Daniel Beauchamp as he takes another time around. Lap 16, 17 as he crosses the line here. Look at how unsettled that 6 machine is coming down the front stretch and even coming through this first chicane. Definitely seems like he's struggling with grip just a little bit, fighting that wheel left and right. Let's take a look on board here with the 6 machine and get a better idea of what it's like driving on 17-lap old soft reds. Just a moment on board there with Finley Fitzsimmons in the 6 machine, just kind of getting a better idea of what it's like. He stays out again. He stays out again. What in the world is Finley doing here? I am genuinely kind of concerned actually for the 6 machine right now. Daniel is starting to close the gap between himself and Finley Fitzsimmons now. Once Finley comes down pit road, that's game over. That's pretty much the final nail in the coffin for Finley's lead in the race, I would have to imagine. Yeah, this is not going to be looking too promising for the 6 of Finley, but Daniel Beauchamp, he's still clicking away laps and staying extremely consistent here. And being on those intermediate tires here as well, he's going to be able to stay out a lot longer, obviously. And also, he won't see as much of a speed difference, or time difference, I guess, rather, I would say. Once we see things kind of start here, or the pit cycle start here for Finley Fitzsimmons as he takes another lap. 18 laps on these soft reds that Finley has done. Look at that. Goes sideways, snaps it loose. Oh boy, folks. That was right out of, I believe that was turn 3. Oh, man, able to keep it together. He gives it back out onto the track and, well, doesn't get himself into the wall, most importantly. Doesn't get any damage done to that car, but those tires are definitely going to be cooked now. They are going to be a lot to handle. Now, as Finley is going to be coming down this final stretch, or second to last final stretch, if you will, if you include that little chicane there kind of towards the middle of this section here that Finley is currently working his way towards. But pit road entry is right here at the top of this chicane, so we'll see. What in the world is Finley doing? Lap 19, 20 now as he crosses the line, and he's still on the same set of tires. I'm trying to process what's going through the mind of Finley Fitzsimmons right now, and the only logical explanation I can think is the race not too long. I can't remember where it was at, but it was Lando Norris. I think it was the Austin Grand Prix. Lando Norris decided to ignore his pit crew and stay out for as long as possible, and I I think he got a puncture, if I'm not mistaken. I could be all wrong. This could be all wrong information, but either way, Finley is absolutely beating on these tires here. He is not giving them an inch. And he goes around again. He goes around again, folks. Lap 21 of 35 here that Finley Fitzsimmons has done on these tires. These same set of tires that he's had since the start of the race. I can only imagine what this car is like to handle right now. It has got to be absolutely monstrous. But he's doing a great job. He's keeping it together. He's still clicking off laps, and as we ride on with the helmet camera of the 6 machine, you can see just how evil this car is starting to become for the 6 of Finley Fitzsimmons. The car definitely does not look like it's wanting to turn as easily as it should. Ooh, look at that. Dropping all the way into first gear as well and just cranking on that wheel. There has got to be no traction in those wheels right now. Now, what I just said there, you know, it's for most, oh my gosh, Finley, this guy is absolutely pushing this car to its purest limit, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So Daniel Beauchamp actually, he's still chipping away at that gap between Finley Fitzsimmons, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that Daniel hasn't caught him already. But again, being on those intermediate tires, you don't exactly get the same pace as you would on soft reds, but Finley, I think, has gone above and beyond the usage on those tires here at this point. So I can only imagine what kind of struggles he's dealing with. But even still, that's giving Daniel the opportunity to just keep doing what he's been doing this whole race. Just keep clicking off laps, stay consistent, hit your marks, and it's going to turn out well for you. Now, we were half expecting a little bit ago, well, I say a little bit ago, it's been about 10 minutes now since we talked about it last, but we were expecting Finley Fitzsimmons to come down into pit road and pass the lead back off to Daniel. This obviously did not happen the way that we thought it would, and we were very wrong. Finley has completely other ideas in mind. He is determined to stay out in front as long as he possibly can. I would imagine there's no way that he's going to be able to finish this race on those tires. There's just no way. I find it hard to believe that he will be able to do such a thing. But if he can, wow, that would be a heartbreaker for the 451 of Daniel Beauchamp. Now, Daniel isn't exactly, you know, he's won quite a few races here in this series already, so it wouldn't exactly hurt his feelings, I would imagine, but it definitely would kind of put a big question mark on everyone's face and just kind of be like, what in the world happened? This is definitely not what I would expect from a race like this, or even from a driver like Finley Fitzsimmons, but after all that, Finley Fitzsimmons finally decides to come down into pit road on lap 23. Daniel Beauchamp going to take the lead back as we go to lap 24 of 35. 12 laps left to go here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. And my gosh, folks, it's been quite the race here. Now, it's been a lot of just, again, I said this a little bit towards the beginning of the race. It's a lot of just, it's almost, well, kind of like hot lapping, or I'm trying to think of the better term for it. But either way, really, we're just seeing who has the better line work, who is more comfortable here at this circuit than everyone else. And right now, Daniel seems to be the one, but we just saw a very, very, very solid run from Finley Fitzsimmons. 23 laps on those soft red tires that we saw from Finley Fitzsimmons. And as he comes out, well, he came out a little while ago, but as he's back out onto track now, he's going to be on those intermediate tires as well, as you are required to make a compound change during the race. So, during the feature, might I add. And, you know, coming to think of it here as well, I almost have to think that Daniel might have to come down pit road one more time before the end of the race. And I say might, because there's also the possibility that Daniel is going to do the exact same thing that we just saw Finley do, and ultimately just try and stay out as long as he possibly can on those set of tires. If Finley is able to stay out 23 laps on soft reds, I would have to imagine that Daniel is going to be able to stay out the, let's see here. Daniel came in lap 14, so that would give him 16 laps. I think that's not right. 21 laps that he would have to do on those tires in order to stay out in front on mediums. That's just, I'm sorry if I'm silent. I'm just processing the kind of, honestly, the strategy, the pure strategy that we're seeing here from Finley Fitzsimmons. It's, oh gosh. Okay. I know we've kind of been locked on with the top two here, looking at these two drivers, but as we look at Troy Banks now, he's actually in the danger zone of getting passed here by the 451 of Daniel Beauchamp as we work our way through the final chicane down the final stretch and across the checkered line as we enter our way into the first chicane, turns 1 and 2, and Daniel already, yep, there he goes. Around the outside, he will go and take his spot out in front of the 8 machine of Troy Banks, and that's going to put Troy a lap down here as well. So Daniel here has definitely shown his might, has definitely proven that he is a very capable driver here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, excuse me. I am French-Canadian, not very good at it. All right. But Daniel Beauchamp here, again, absolutely crushing his performance here today. And now that he has gotten himself back into first place, secured that spot, he's about 12 and a half seconds, we'll say, from the 6 of Finley Fitzsimmons. He's going to be pretty comfortable up here. And, ooh, wow, look at that. Almost slapping the wall there. It looked like recharging the batteries as he works his way into turns 1 and 2. Let's take a moment to ride on board with Daniel Beauchamp and have a listen to the sights and sounds of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. We will be right back. incredible driving that we see from the 451 of Daniel Beauchamp. As we look at Finley Fitzsimmons now in the 6 machine, work his way through turns 1 and 2. That lovely first chicane that we have seen. Well, it's a good thing that we haven't seen a lot of carnage happen here in this race, because I honestly think if there were more drivers present at the start of this race, there would definitely be a lot more carnage, a lot more cars, a lot more scrap around the track in that section of the track. I just have a gut feeling that this would be a very, very nasty track to race at, both in the real world and in the sim. This definitely seems like a track not to take lightly, is the best way I can describe it. But this race has been a lot of interesting things happening here between the 451 of Daniel Beauchamp as well as the 6 machine of Finley Fitzsimmons. The strategy between both of these drivers, especially Finley Fitzsimmons. Now, we touched on it a little bit earlier. We were watching as Finley extended his tire life 23 laps on soft reds. Now, if you're not familiar with Formula One, or just not familiar with racing in general, there's different compounds of tires that you can use for racing. Generally, the type of track, the track that you're at will generally dictate what compound you use. Tracks that consist of a lot of tight turns, a lot of chicanes, like this one here, you would want to preferably use either the soft reds or the medium yellow intermediate tires, which a lot of our drivers here have started on. If there's a track that it has a lot of straights, a lot of just long straights, as well as cold temperatures, I believe, is another consideration. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of points here, but the hard compound tire is also another good option for tracks with a lot of tight chicanes, but it depends on temperature, it depends on how your car is configured and how your driving style is, etc., etc. There's a number of things to consider before going to a track and before you even step foot into the race car, so to speak. Not necessarily, but in the real world, I guess you would say that is definitely probably true. But either way, we're here in iRacing for the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. Now, there's not a whole lot of preparing that you have to do to step into a race like this. You pretty much just have to own the track, own the car, and, well, hop in and have fun. So, ultimately, the prep that drivers do here for these races is ultimately up to them. Whether or how much practice they dedicate to themselves for this race is purely up to the drivers, and whatever setups they decide to use, again, up to them. They're allowed to change the car, manipulate it however they feel is best for their driving style and for their teams. So we see a lot of different things happening here on track. We have drivers that, again, this is the Mercedes Petronas W12, the Formula One car. This is the official Formula One car as well. So this was built in cooperation with Mercedes to bring this car into iRacing. So this is the closest representation of a real world Formula One car that you can get in a sim, and there's no words for it. From a sim racer's perspective, from a commentator's perspective, this car in this simulation is absolutely spectacular. Now, is there some things that they could work on? Could they add? Absolutely. There's always things that can be done, but given how complicated this car is, given how much engineering and work was put into this car. I'm definitely certain that Mercedes had some things that they weren't exactly too fond of letting all of us sim racing nerds get in on. So there are definitely some settings, some tweaking things that aren't present here in the simulated version of this car, but it is still the same car in every way, shape, and form, and it performs to just about the same degree, if not within the same second of its real-life counterpart on the track. So these guys absolutely learning everything about this car here in this series, as we are on round 10 of 12, 2 races left to go here in the series. And speaking of just a few things left to go, we are on lap 34 of 35. We are just a few laps left before we see the checkered flag fly, and Daniel Beauchamp has taken away this lead with about 14 seconds of a gap between himself and second place driver of Finley Fitzsimmons. And I gotta say, Finley right now having also to work around this lap traffic that of Troy Banks in that 8 machine. Probably not the best thing here, but definitely makes for some great camera work. Look at that as they both work their way through that beautiful chicane. You know, and it definitely seems like this track, whoever designed this track definitely loves chicanes as well, because if by my count, if I'm not mistaken, 5 chicanes, if my count is correct. But Daniel Beauchamp, he took it across the checkered line. That's going to bring out the white flag. And this will be our final lap of the race here today at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Canada for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. And Daniel Beauchamp has taken away this race here today. And as I was talking about earlier, I had a theory that Daniel might want to come down into pit road before the end of the race, but nope, he was very, very much not going to do so, as again, only 21 laps that he would have to do on these tires, on these intermediates, and Finley was able to pull off 23 on soft red. So Daniel taking full advantage of the tire wear on his tires currently as he works his way through the final chicane down the final stretch and across the checkered line, and he will take home the win for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. And as we now wait for Finley Fitzsimmons and Troy Banks now to work their way through the final chicane as well and across the checkered line, Finley Fitzsimmons going to take home second place, and Troy Banks going to take it home for third, as we now watch Alex Roggenbuck do the same thing. Going to take home a fourth place here for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge, and that is going to conclude our race here today, folks. And here is our results. For the feature, Finley Fitzsimmons taking home the win. Oh, excuse me. That does not seem to be correct here, actually. Daniel Beauchamp taking home the win. Finley Fitzsimmons in second. Troy Banks in third. Alex Roggenbuck in fourth. Corey Sabo in fifth. Jack Mundy in sixth. And Gareth McAllister in seventh. That is going to conclude our feature for round number 10 of the Team Goon Squad Formula One Challenge. I hope everyone has enjoyed. And if you did, hit that like button and subscribe. And stay tuned with all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 days a week. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, and I will see you all for the next one.
Carrington gets dumped by Benami. The leaders are winding up here. Daytona. The big one is out.